Wow. Thank you so much, Ralph, for that warm introduction. Ralph Reed is such a dear friend and such a leader in this fight. Faith and freedom, both in the name of this coalition, both under attack, as you know. I want to first thank each and every one of you for the prayers. I would not be here today without God's grace, without miracles, and without prayers from people just like you all around this country. I also want to thank Tim Head for heading this up, the road to the majority. We all know what's at stake next year. We all know why we need to get the majority back and try to right what these Democrat socialists are trying to do to undermine the values, the faith, the freedom that this country's built upon. You can see it all around. What is under attack in America right now? The very foundation of the values that make this country great, the very freedoms that people gave their lives for to make this country the beacon of freedom all around the world. This is the place. We are not going to let them take those freedoms away and change this into another failed socialist experiment. It's been tried in a lot of places, and it's failed every place it's been tried. How about, if you really love socialism, go to one of those places where they ruined their country. Don't ruin our country. And so that's what's at stake. But the good thing is, when you look at all the people here, isn't it good to be in person again, seeing friends again? The great state of Florida is an example of this contrast, and we're going to talk about this. Why Ron DeSantis has done such a great job in Florida. Look at Florida versus New York. You can't have a better contrast. Not just about leadership, not just about following science, and oh, by the way, also using common sense. Seems to be a dearth of that in Washington these days. But just look at what happened yesterday. The United States Supreme Court in a 9-0 ruling stood up for religious freedom against the city of Philadelphia trying to take that away. Unanimous decision. And in just a few months, this new United States Supreme Court will take up maybe the most significant pro-life case since Roe versus Wade, the Mississippi case, and I can't wait to see that ruling with this great new Supreme Court filled with 3 justices that Donald Trump appointed who actually believe in the Constitution as it's written. So we know how our freedoms are under attack. Just look at what they're proposing. President Biden has just proposed in his budget to gut and take away the Hyde Amendment protections. You know what that means. Hyde language since the 1970s. That's actually been one of those unifying bipartisan understandings that, yes, there's a disagreement in Washington on life. And what a great speaker I got to follow, in Ann Wagner, who is defending life with the Born Alive Act. But Hyde Amendment says, regardless of where you are on abortion, no taxpayer funds should be used to provide abortion. And both sides actually agreed on that for decades. Not anymore. The left has gone so far nuts that they actually want to try to take Hyde away. We will not let them take away Hyde protections in Congress. But it's an important example of where we are, because this is not your father or your grandfather's Democrat Party. When you think about the Born Alive Act, a baby's born alive outside the womb. Look at the polling on this. People who identify as pro-choice think that's crazy. When my staff came to me and said, sir, we need to have a law to protect this from happening, I said, why do you need a law? It's murder. Isn't murder already illegal? And they said, not in some states. Think about that. In the state of New York, they are killing babies born alive outside the womb and calling it abortion. And so we bring a common sense bill that says you can't do it. It is murder, like we all understand. And Nancy Pelosi will not let that bill come to the floor. So we have this discharge petition that Ann and Florida Congresswoman Kat Kamak have led the charge on. Do you know that when we filed that, I whipped that, I got all of our members, every Republican signed on, the record in the history of Congress for signing a discharge petition, which means you're going to go around the Speaker of the House and force a bill to the floor. We broke the record for the most signatures in a single day. Over 200 members of Congress on day one signed it, shattered the previous record. So there is a staunch pro-life movement that is growing in this country. However, there is a sharp contrast now that we all need to understand, and that is that there is not a single Democrat member of Congress who has signed on to that. Not a single one. 5 Democrats sign on, and that bill is on the floor, bypassing Nancy Pelosi, and it passes, and not a single one will stand up and say they're pro-life. That's how far radical socialist left they've moved. That's not where America is. That's not where most Democrats in America are. That's why we need, a lot of you are in districts, by the way, represented by some of those districts, those members. Call their office. Ask them why they won't sign the Born Alive Act, and tell them, don't you dare say you're pro-life if you don't sign that discharge petition. But you know some of the other freedoms that are under attack. They're trying to take away all of our freedoms. This last year has been a classic example of that. My goodness, if you see somebody driving in their Prius by themselves with 3 masks on, you don't need to know what party they're in. You don't need to know what the bumper sticker on the back of their car says. I mean, some of this stuff is unbelievable. Again, let's get back to the science. That is not science. Some people are practicing more political science than medical science in this last year because they want to control your life. It's about government control versus freedom. And that is what socialism is. And so make no mistake, they don't want to let this go because they want to be able to tell you what to do. It's like that with everything. But they also want to take away other fundamental rights. It's not just life that's under attack. They want to take away our Second Amendment rights. We're not going to let them do that either. Now think about this. The last year you saw it waving across the country in Democrat-run cities, defund the police. One of the craziest, dumbest ideas I've ever heard, and I've heard, unfortunately, a lot of really crazy and dumb ideas. Look, I wouldn't be here today, as Ralph talked about, that shooting 4 years ago. There were miracles performed that day. True miracles. I've written about them. If you ever wonder if miracles exist, please come talk to me, and I'll give you a litany of things that you go, one, maybe this is a... By the 4th and 5th one, you're going, God was on the ball field that day performing miracles. All of us. Over a dozen members of Congress. They wanted to take out one lunatic gunman. But you know why? Not just the miracles, the heroes. Police were there that day with guns to counter him, and that's why everybody on that ball field is alive today except the gunman. We have got to stand up against their attempts to take away our Second Amendment rights, and we will stand up against their attempts to defund the police. That's what they want to do. But look at what Biden has done in just a short period of time, in just 6 months. They've destroyed so many things that were working well. President Trump had created maybe the hottest economy our country's seen in the history of America. And it's a great history that they want to change, and we're not going to let them do that either. But look at all the crises we're seeing. Ann talked about the border crisis. I went to the border. I brought 10 of my colleagues to the border. We embedded with the Border Patrol agents. Every one of them will tell you the same thing. The things that Donald Trump did worked. You know, and I know the left hates Donald Trump. You know, we'll go call it your own wall. Go call it your own Remain in Mexico policy. Whatever you want to do, those things work. President Trump negotiated an agreement with Mexico to say if you want to seek asylum, stay in Mexico to do it because over 95% of the claims are rejected. Problem is they come here now, you give them a get-out-of-jail-free card, we'll see you in 5 years, welcome to America, and you never see them again. That's what President Biden has done. Tens of thousands of people, and then he puts Kamala Harris in charge of it. My gosh, you're vice president. You know, you don't have a few things to do. The president gives you responsibilities, and he gave her this one. And she still hasn't gone to the border. There are people on the terrorist watch list from the Middle East who have roamed across our southern border in the last 6 months. And so people on the terrorist watch list can find America's southern border, and the vice president of the United States can't. There's something wrong there. Senator, Vice President Harris, come down to our southern border and look at the debacle that you and President Biden have created and fix it. Fix it. We'll tell you how to do it. It's not complicated. Look all around the world. You just had President Biden go up and meet with Putin. He wouldn't even stand up against Putin for the things that they've been doing to this country. They're hacking our pipelines. What does President Biden do? So he's destroyed American energy. Day one, he made it clear what he's about. He repealed and canceled the Keystone Pipeline. Thousands of good American jobs, really good American jobs. And oh, by the way, it's bringing in oil from our friend Canada. Canada's an ally. And then you contrast that. So I guess he thinks pipelines are bad, right? You would think that because he canceled the Keystone Pipeline in America. Except that just a few weeks ago, President Biden green-lighted and gave federal incentives to Russia to build the Nord Stream pipeline to Germany. So hold on a second. I thought he was against pipelines. Except that he's not. He's against American pipelines. He's against American jobs and American energy. But the last time I checked, and you know, he put this great guy John Kerry as his global warming czar. They hide, again, they try to construe science and they think nobody's going to call them on this stuff. So they, oh, it's all about global warming and we got to stop using fossil fuels. And so he gives John Kerry the task of doing it. Only problem is, we found out, John Kerry takes his private jet and flies to Iceland to get a global warming award, telling you not to use fossil fuels. Well, we checked the plane. It doesn't have solar panels on the wings of that plane. They use jet fuel. Where does jet fuel come from? From fossil fuels. And if you're not getting it from America, you got to get it from somewhere. So they're going to get it from Russia. Russia emits more carbon to make the same oil and jet fuel that is made if you made it in America. If you don't make steel in Pittsburgh, steel is still getting made. You know who's making it? China's making the steel. China emits 5 times more carbon than if you made it in Pittsburgh, and yet they're shutting it down here. So now let's talk about the science. This isn't about global warming, because if that's what it was, and if it was about carbon, you're emitting more carbon if you don't make things in America. So what is it really about? They have this religion that they say they hate fossil fuels, except they're hypocrites on this stuff. All of these things that they've been doing. John Kerry's not flying around using fossil fuels while telling you not to, unless it's hypocrisy. When Gavin Newsom in California says, don't hang out with your family at Thanksgiving because you're going to kill everybody. Except that they found him out at his favorite restaurant with a bunch of his friends and nobody had masks on, and that's when people got it. This isn't about science. It's not about saving lives. It's about controlling your life. And that brings us back to Florida. So Ron DeSantis followed the science. I served with Ron. He's done a great job as the leader here, as the governor of Florida. But when Ron said, we're going to open up Florida, they said, it's crazy. It's going to kill everybody. They gave Governor Cuomo got an Emmy Award and a book deal. He killed thousands of seniors in nursing homes in New York because he didn't follow the science, and they give him an award. And Ron DeSantis took care of the seniors in Florida. And I'm going to give you numbers because they hate using facts. They want to deny science. They want to deny facts. Unemployment is through the roof in New York. They have wrecked businesses and livelihoods like we will never know. Unemployment's one of the lowest rates here in Florida. So highest unemployment in New York, lowest in Florida. And they'll tell you, well, at least they saved lives. Except they didn't. One of the highest death rates from COVID. I wish there were no deaths from COVID. I wish we in Congress would investigate the origin of COVID-19. Pelosi won't do it. When we're in the majority, we will do it, and we will hold China accountable. They are covering for China right now. It's a Soviet-style cover-up. We're going to keep calling them out on it. But if you look at the death rates, about 260 deaths per 100,000 per capita in New York, about 160 per 100,000 in Florida. That's how dramatically different and lower the death rate is in Florida, with Ron DeSantis opening the state up, but following the science. We have got to reject their crazy, radical ideas about controlling our life, because they'll say it's about science. You know it's not. They are wrecking our kids' lives by siding with the teachers' unions who don't want to go back to school, when all the science says the kids need to be back in school. It's safer for them, but they are losing a generation. Kids are committing suicides at higher levels, drug overdoses at higher levels, and the students across America that have been in the classroom are still learning at a much higher rate than the kids that have been kept out. We need to stand up for these children. There's never been a time more than today to talk about school choice. Let parents have the option. If the union bosses don't want to do the job, let somebody else do it. This is what is at stake in America. It's why the Faith and Freedom Coalition, it's why all of you stand together here and then go back in your communities. We need to spread this word. We need to be talking about this every day. We need to be confronting them. Why? Because this is what the fight is about. It's about the future of America. Is America going to become yet another failed socialist experiment like New York, like California? Why is Florida growing? Why is Texas growing? Because this state represents freedom. The states that represent socialism are failed. Countries who represent socialism have failed. There is only one beacon left in the world, and it is this great United States of America. It's worth fighting for. I'm in the fight. You're in the fight. We are going to win this fight. Thank you. Thank God. And God keep blessing this great United States of America. Thanks for having me.